So I was reading about this idea of like room for error when it comes to investing. And I don't know, it really got me thinking about how we deal with risk in general, like in life, but especially with money.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, how often do we underestimate needing that buffer?
Yeah,
When things don't go exactly to plan.
totally. And that's kind of what we're diving into today, this whole room for error thing and how it connects to making smart money decisions. We've actually got some pretty cool sources lined up. We're talking Blackjack strategy and, believe it or not, World War II tanks.
Oh, yeah, get ready for some surprising links there.
Okay, so first up, let's hit the blackjack table. And before you think we're suggesting a weekend in Vegas, this is more about the strategy behind the game, not just the gambling itself.
Right.
Our source material actually breaks down how these professional card counters, they use probability to get an edge. They basically track the cards that have been dealt to get an idea of what might come next.
And what's super important here is that even these experts, they make a living calculating the odds, but they know they can still be wrong. So they build in a margin of safety, a buffer, by never betting it all on a single hand.
So it's not about being lucky or even just being good at it. It's about managing the risk even when you think you've got the upper hand.
Exactly. And this actually ties into a concept from investing that we're going to get into. It's called margin of safety. This term, it was actually coined by this legendary investor, Benjamin Graham, and it basically stresses how important it is to build in that cushion, room for mistakes in your financial decisions. Just like those card counters smart investors get, that they can't predict the market perfectly.
Right. They leave room for the what if I'm wrong moments.
Exactly. And this is actually where our next source comes in. It's this fascinating story from World War II. So during the Battle of Stalingrad, the Germans, they were really banking on their Panzer tanks. Like at the time, these things were considered, engineering marvels.
Right. But there was a slight miscalculation there, wasn't there?
Oh, you could say that. Turns out, nobody really planned for mice.
Yeah.
Yeah, these little critters were chewing through the wiring of these super powerful tanks, and it caused all sorts of mechanical issues.
Wow. Can you imagine these fearsome tanks taken down by mice?
I know.
It really shows how even the most well thought out plans can get messed up by the totally unexpected.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty wild example. It really kind of drives home the point, though, about those financial mice, right? Like in our own lives, those unexpected things that can throw a wrench in everything.
Totally. And that's where that whole margin of safety thing becomes so important. It's about acknowledging we can't predict everything and building in that extra space, that buffer to protect ourselves.
So it's not about being a downer. It's more about being prepared. Yeah, absolutely. Being realistic, being resilient. And, our sources actually talked about this, how often people try to predict the future with way too much certainty. Mm-hmm. And that's where things can really go sideways.
Yeah, like trying to time the market perfectly, right?
Exactly. People get so caught up in that whole buy low, sell high thing.
Yeah.
But the reality is even the pros get it wrong, a lot. They might give you a price target, but rarely a price range.
It's like they forget that the market doesn't exactly move in a straight line or on a schedule.
Right. And it's not just investing either. People do this in their personal finances all the time, too.
Oh, tell me about it. Home renovations. Total budget busters, notorious for it.
For sure. Or retirement planning, right? We often underestimate how long we'll live, what those unexpected expenses might be. It's kind of like our notes said, that whole Russian roulette should statistically work mindset, chasing big wins, but not really facing the potentially disastrous downsides.
Okay, so we've established that unexpected stuff happens, whether it's misjudging a hand at the blackjack table or your kitchen remodel going haywire or, mice taking out your Panzer division. But how do we actually put this margin of safety into practice?
Well, luckily, it doesn't involve quite as much steel wool as protecting a whole tank battalion. There's some really practical things we can take from this deep dive, stuff that can make a big difference. For one thing, we need to think about our emotional buffer.
Emotional buffer? Is that like a financial stress ball or something?
Not quite. It's more about recognizing that financial ups and downs, they're going to happen, and preparing ourselves emotionally to ride those waves. Can you handle, say, a 30% dip in your portfolio without panicking and doing something rash?
That's a good question. One I'd rather not have to find out the answer to in real time, to be honest.
Right. And that's exactly why factoring in your emotional capacity for risk, it's just as important as the financial side.
So besides stealing our nerves, what are some other more tangible things we can do to build in that margin of safety? What about retirement planning? Any tips there?
Yeah, one really practical thing is to be pretty conservative with those estimated return rates. Instead of using those, rosy historical averages, maybe consider using a lower rate to create that cushion.
So kind of like plan for the worst, hope for the best.
In a way, yeah. It's more about acknowledging that the future might not be as smooth sailing as the past. And our notes actually mention Warren Buffett's approach, which is keeping a good chunk of cash on hand, even when everyone else is going all in on risk. It's kind of like that saying, the best time to buy an umbrella is before it rains.
Right, be prepared.
Exactly. That's what you call the barbell approach, balancing riskier investments with a portion that's super safe, easy to access. It's all about having options when things get a little bumpy.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's say, things are pretty good financially. Like I've got some emergency savings, I'm putting money towards retirement, but I haven't really hit any of those financial mice yet. Do I still need to worry about this whole margin of safety thing?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it comes up a lot. But here's the thing. You might not know you need it until it's too late. Think back to those German tank commanders, right? Like, mice weren't even on their radar.
Yeah, I bet they weren't too thrilled about that oversight.
Not at all. And that's why this idea of saving for the unexpected, those financial mice, it's so important. It's all about, expecting the unexpected,
So even if things are smooth sailing right now, gotta be ready for those curveballs.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's kind of like having that extra space in your suitcase, for souvenirs. You never know what treasures, or in this case, unexpected expenses, might pop up along the way.
Perfect analogy. Well, there you have it, folks. A crash course in smart money moves inspired by, card sharks, World War II tanks, and some seriously savvy investors. As we wrap up this deep dive on room for error, we want to leave you with one final thought.
What's your mouse scenario?
Ooh, good one. What's that thing you haven't even considered that could throw your finances out of whack? Take some time to think about your own plans, how much risk you're really comfortable with.
A little bit of prep work today can make a huge difference when those curveballs inevitably come along.
Until next time, happy diving, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Becoming a Millionaire in 5 Years. Remember, every small step you take today brings you closer to your millionaire goals. If you found value in today's video, please give us a thumbs up and share it with someone who's also ready to change their financial future. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, let's turn those dreams into reality. See you next time.